Hi everyone, I'm Marie, and me and the Magical Fairies are coming to you live from Living Felt because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Hey everyone, happy Wednesday wherever you are. We are watching you all check in, and we're so excited because today we are going to make this cutie little raccoon named Mr. Fiddles, and he's going to help us kick off our end of the fall season, heading into the holiday season, and we thank you all so much for being here with us today. So I want to say hi to some friends. Hi to Lynn in Minnesota. She says it's her first show. Thank you so much for being here. Hi to Allison. She was the first to check in today. Hi to Diane in Washington and Lee in Massachusetts. Sharon in Indiana. Reagan's all the way in Canada. Fiona in Australia. Hi gals. Thank you so much. I know it's so late there on the other side of the globe. We have Christina in Poland, always tuning in. Thanks for being here, Christina. Audrey in the UK as well. Carrie in Germany. Dawn in Cornwall, and hi to our friend Devin. Thank you all so much for being here. We're excited to felt with you and work on another little 3D project. And just want you all to know, if it's your first time, say hey. Everyone's participating over here in the live chat. Tell us where you're from. If you're new, say you're new so our community can welcome you. It's an interactive hour-ish. We'll do our best to finish in an hour. And hey, if you comment, you get entered to win prizes, either on the live stream, which we're doing right now, or after the live show. You can comment in the comment field down below. So there is a kit for today. If you're looking for it, there's a link in the description to all the supplies you'll need after the live chat or to close your live chat. You can see it there. And on that note, I want to give away 2 prizes from people who commented last week. We made our little Waldorf witches, right? That's what we made last week. So these 2 folks win our Waldorf witch kit, Pam Ellingson and Shoshana Avramovitz. I'm not sure how to say that, but congratulations, Shoshana and Pam, and thank you so much for everybody who commented on the witches. They seem to be really popular, and if you tune into our Facebook page, you can see lots of their wishes too. So witches and wishes, both. So the fairies are all lined up, and if you're not wanting a kit, they've got some supplies you might consider for today's project or other projects as well. And the first up is the lovely is the lovely fairy Trish.
Hey y'all, these are the colors we're using for the Raccoon project today. We have the MC1 in Storm Gray, Soft Pink, and Black Onyx, plus the CX2 in Winter White. The CX2 is a coarser, wirier fiber, but it plays beautifully with the MC1. And for the full list of supplies or to order the kit, just follow the link in the description. Next up, Fairy Angela.
Yay! Hello everyone. So if you're wanting to try out some new needles, or if you're just wanting to restock before all of your holiday projects, I recommend our Super Variety Pack. It comes with 10 different types of needles and 3 of each needle. So you get 30 needles that range from general sculpting, coarse, fine, and reverse. And if you go to the Living Felt website and go to the needles page, there is a video that will go through and explain each one of these needles and what you might want to use it for. And up next is Fairy Ann.
Hey y'all, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I wanted to share with you one of my favorite fall projects, which is Mr. Pumpkin House. So you can, the kit will make one pumpkin house. You can either make a white pumpkin, or there's some other fibers in there, so you can make an orange pumpkin too. And we did this project on Woolly Wednesday, so we show you how to make the door and the windows and all of this blingy goodness as well. And we love them so much. Sometimes we use them as a pincushion. So we like looking at them. So that is a full kit that is available on our website under the section Needle Felting. Next up is Fairy Kayla.
Hey everybody, Fairy Kayla here. I wanted to share with you our CW1 core wool. It's super awesome. So this is the inside of a lot of our 3D sculpture. Basically every 3D sculpture that we make is made with core wool. It comes in 2 forms, a big fluffy sheet, which is our batting, and then the roving, which is in a long strand and super awesome for wrapping armature with. Yeah, and if you're looking for this, you can follow the link down in the description. You can find it there too.
And then super important question for everybody. Do you guys know why raccoons get fat?
Why do raccoons get fat?
Because their diet is trash.
Oh.
All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Marie.
Thank you, Kayla. And I just see a big round of hearts for the fairies. This is part of our crew. They pack your orders, they answer your emails and your phone calls. They help us do absolutely everything here. And they're punny too. And so we're here in Central Texas. We are Living Felt and feltingtutorials.com. You guys can call us. We're here to help. But today we're here to play. So let me show you this cute little critter. I'm going to just prop him up here for a second so you can have a look at him. And we're going to be needle felting 3D. So the gals showed you the supplies that you're going to need. Let me just get him front and center. And there is our little raccoonie. He told me his name was Mr. Fiddles. And he's pretty fun. Very cool. So thank you all so much for being here. Glad to be with you. Fun to see you all ringing in on the chat. And Holly is here with me, and she's going to help us answer your questions. You're welcome to give us your own feedback as well. Mr. Fiddles is pretty fun. He's definitely in line with our little storybook bunny that we made a few years back, and is also a kit. They're about the same size, so we're going to build on some of those same ideas, and I'm going to show you how to make him. So part of what we're doing here with him, let me see if I can get myself lined up. Let me show you what we're doing here with him, and let's just have a look at him. So this is Mr. Fiddles. His head, I decided not to make his head rotate, but it is string jointed, and I'm going to show you how to put that on. And we're going to make him today. He's got just a cute little body and little sticky legs. And if you make a Mr. Fiddles, he's going to come back next week and teach us some fun stuff as well. So here's what we need for this kit. Or this project, it really doesn't take all that much. I'm going to show you the supplies. We are going to be working with CW1 core wool, as Trish showed you in the MC1, Storm, black onyx, and white. Storm, black onyx, and then the CX2 winter white. And this is the whitest white. You don't have to use the whitest white, but I'll just show it to you next to the core wool. It's very white. We love it for anything snow, snowman, or any time where you really want super white fur or fiber, but it is a little more wiry than our other stuff. Okay, so that's all the fiber you need. Basic supplies, you're going to want a foam pad. I'm going to work with a collection of felting needles today, and I'll show you what they are. This is pretty much what I'm going to be working with. Is my well-worn 42, so a 36 triangle, a 38 star or triangle, whatever you can get your hands on there, or both, a 40 triangle and a 42 triangle. These are the needles I'm going to be working with today, so I'll park them here. I'll park Mr. Fiddles right over here. And we're going to start with our core wool. Now, it doesn't take very much core wool for this project. Really, the whole thing is like, less than an ounce. So pull off about, let me see if I can do my measurements up here. I'm in a little tight, so let me see. I want to show you all the measurements. This is a 12 by 12 foam pad, by the way, that I'm on, which is really great. And you're going to pull off about 12 inches of the core wool if you're working with the roving. It's about that much thickness. And if you don't have the roving, well then, it's just about that thick, about 5 inches wide, or as wide as your hand. And then I want you to just divide it, so like in 2/3. So I have a strip here that I'm going to use for the head, and then the rest is going to be for the body. We're going to make the body first, so you can see how that goes. Pamela says, I love his chubby body.
I think there's like a toss-up of people loving Mr. Fiddles, and there's a lot of comments on your mug.
Oh, can y'all see my mug? I'm going to do a shout out to Joanne Strategos of Mudworks Pottery. So This mug she sent me, thank you, Joanne. I just opened it right before the show. This mug is based on our tutorial for, what did we call this? Pumpkin to talk about. Pumpkin to talk about tutorial where we made this pillow. And Joanne said she was inspired by that, and now I guess she's selling these mugs. So go get yourself one. I've got mine. All right, I didn't know everyone could see that. Well, I guess they could. We were overhead, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was quite popular.
So we're starting with this 12 inches of core wool, and the first thing we're going to do is make the body, and the body is like an egg shape. And here's how we get there. Most people know how to make a ball, but even if you don't, we're going to start like this, and we're going to begin by rolling a tube. And then I'm going to roll the butt up a little bit and the top a little less. We're going to roll this down, and you're just going to kind of roll as you go. Now, roll and tuck, roll and tuck, roll and tuck. Before you get too far and notice that I'm really holding tension, I'm going to start needle felting. And I will use my 36 triangle here because I want to get as much air out as possible, and I want to really start to needle felt these areas together as we go. So what you notice is, for those who are new, I have this area over here that I want to needle felt, but what I don't want to do is poke myself. So even we're just pausing for a second, just spin it around so you don't poke yourself. And please keep your piece down on your foam so that you don't pick it up and needle felt, because you're definitely going to poke yourself if you do that. We want to just get a general attachment going right here at first. And then if you want to keep this part narrow and this part, if you feel like the wool is the same thickness as you go up, you can always peel this a little bit thin, and then we can add wool on where we go. So if you're trying to keep one end more narrow than the other, just tear off a little bit of this wool there, so that we're going to roll and roll and roll. And again, we're kind of going for a little egg shape. Before we get to the very end, again, I'm just going to pull the wool and kind of start needle felting it into that shape. When you're creating these base layers, make sure to needle felt all over the whole shape. Like, you don't want to stay in one place too long, because the wool's going to get, it does get poked, but it also gets pulled towards the other fiber. And if you've ever needle felted a ball and ended up with a hollow shape, you'll understand what I mean. So it helps to needle felt in layers as we go, because the barbs on the needle are only go so deep. That's why you kind of want to at least needle felt some as you go along.
There's a lot of love for our needles right now, too.
Oh, sweet.
How good they are and how long they last.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. And now I want to tell you that it's worth spending the time to firm up your base shapes and make them nice and even. So what you're going to see today is that we're going to go fairly fast, and I'm going to encourage you to take your time and make them nice and firm. Don't worry about being the first one to post your raccoon. You know, love your raccoon and take time to give him a really good form. And you'll be glad you did, especially when you see what we're going to do next week. You'll be glad to have a firm piece rather than half-baked cookies, right? We don't want half-baked cookies. We want something that's firm, that's durable, and will hold up to rubs and loves and all kinds of, I don't know, mischief. Raccoons get into mischief. Now notice here that sometimes people tell me they have a difficult time forming like an egg shape. So notice here that this is round and this part's a little more tapered already, just because what I've been doing. And now, before I go too far, I'm going to taper this by needle felting here. And I want you to know that what I'm looking at is very much what you're looking at, and that's this horizon point. So when I turn it, I'm looking at this horizon point. That's how I guide. How is my shape coming with something? And notice I'm going towards this direction. I'm not going this direction. I'm pushing always towards the middle. So that middle is this middle and the middle, you know, of this right here. And there's no reason to go all the way through to the foam. Absolutely not. That's not, you don't want to push the wool past the middle of the shape. Okay? I saw somebody said they're happy to have Holly back. Welcome back, Holly. Holly's been in the wings and around, and she's doing all kinds of stuff, but she's been like behind the scenes for a little while.
I have been. I've been hiding out, but
Wendy in the UK says she got her first order from Living Felt today. That is so exciting. Thank you so much. Okay,
Nice.
so now this is my rough egg shape, and I want to show you one of the ways I like to firm up these shapes is using our little cluster of 42 triangles. You can have 3, you can have 4, you can have 5. They're just rubber banded together. But once I get a shape like this lately has become a shaping tool. And it's shallow strokes and moving around the piece and shaping and firming. You might even try this with 40 triangles, but I'm very happy to use my little cluster of 42s to continue shaping, and you're going to want to make this really smooth and even. So let me show you, and I know the sizey people are asking, what's the size?
I was just
I know.
gonna ask you that.
I know you're there. I feel ya. So this is about my size, and you can make it a little bigger or a little smaller. This is now notice how squishy this one is, and this one not so squishy. So the difference is really, see, like that, it's not really squishing, and then this one will squish, and the difference is just compaction. So what we're going for is this little egg, and I measured him, he's about 2¼ inches long, about. And I brought a baby measuring tape for you. Here we go. And around the widest part of him, I know there's going to be centimeter people too. I can't read centimeters. But okay, so around, he's about 4 inches around, and that plays with the 2 inches in width. These are centimeters. So it looks like close to 10. Is that close to 10? Close to 10 centimeters around. And then lengthwise, he is about, he's about 2 inches end to end here. He's about 2 inches. So this is approximate. Just make him an approximate little eggy shape like that. And for me, this weighs 6/10 of it. This weighs like 4 grams. That's how much it weighs. Very little. Very little, y'all who are in ounces, very little. So you're going to make an egg shape for the body, and for the head, it's slightly different, but not much different. It's either the shape of a football that's flat on one-sided, or the shape of Stewie's head. So if you know who Stewie's is, I think this is like the shape of Stewie's head. That's what we're going to make. And I want to show you generally how I get to that shape. Somebody says, does it matter what size we make for next week's project? No, just make it close, because I'll do my best to help guide you for next week's project. But if you get it pretty close, then what we do next week will just be easier to get to, or some of it anyway. Okay, so I have this little strip. This is 2 grams for me, very little fiber. It was that third, of the 12 inches we pulled off. And for the head, we're going to do very similar, except we're not really going for an egg shape. In fact, usually I pull off, let me see, I'm going to pull off a little portion of this actually. Before you start rolling, pull off a little portion, because you may want it to add on somewhere. So we're going to start to do our little roll and tuck in the corners. And you're going to make like not quite an egg, just an oval. So just keep tucking in your corners as you go, making this little shape. But don't make them too tight. So now I'm about, a little past halfway. Leave these sides a little bit alone and let the fiber kind of taper in. Just kind of trust me on this. I know it's a little weird. I'm just going to wrap this around, and we're making like a little cylinder. Notice I'm keeping it tight as I go. If you don't have our batting, this won't be quite so fluid, but work with what you have. So we have a little cylinder, and actually I'm going to go with my green needle, and here's why, because I don't want to overshape this thing just yet. I just want all of these fibers to get attached. And first thing I'm going to do is just tack down the whole outer layer. Notice I'm not touching the ends yet. I'm leaving the ends unfelted. Tack down the center. And then right away, what we're going to do is just start, imagine that you're just kind of shaping it like this flat little football here. So we want part of it to kind of taper down, and then we're going to let part of it, the bottom part, be a little more flat. So I'll do it this sideways, a little more flat. We're going to just taper it down. And you can kind of even pinch it. I always say if you can pinch the wool into a particular shape, then you can needle felt it into that shape. So it's okay to kind of shape it with your fingers and say, this is what I'm going for. And then just gently tack the wool into that shape. Again, we're going always to the middle. And I'll work on this side. I'll flip it over. Now it's upside down for me, but I'll just, this allows me to see it. And then we'll work it from the other side as well. So
we have a lot of people saying that they really like using the pink, the clover needle felt tool for that. Because some people are saying like with the 42 triangles, they're a little uncoordinated to use the rubber bands. But quite a few people have said that it's needle felting pen, right?
Yeah, the clover pen tool. We do carry that also. Yeah. I usually use the pen tool on like slightly bigger projects, but if you like that pen tool, the needles are just a little more spaced apart than this. These are very, very close together, and that's the difference, is the distance between the needles. So here's all you're going to do. This one, you're going to shape into this little half football and keep just being delicate. That's why I'm using my 40 triangle as opposed to something more aggressive, is because it's a gradual shaping, right? It's like if you were trying to sculpt mashed potatoes, which is like what this is like, you would use a spoon probably and not a pitchfork. So a 36 triangle or a more aggressive needle is going to be too aggressive. And we want to just be gentle. And you do want to get this firm. So once you start getting the shape you want, then you can switch to your 42 triangle, a single needle, and continue to shape that and firm it to get it like you want. So we're going for a half a football like this, 2 fairly firm pieces, and that is the primary makings of our little raccoon there. So,
you have a lot of people excited about next week already.
Oh, fun! That's so fun. Look, I had you pull off this little shape, and the reason is because if you find that once you make your piece that this part seems a little flat, you can wrap this around the middle and build it up so that it's a little more rounded. Also, if you want the back of the head to be a little more mounded, you can needle felt that on, or if you want the back of the head to be a little more mounded, the face you're going to keep fairly flat. But like, let's say you want the back of the head to have a little more arch like I did on this guy, and we're not going to do it today because it's going to take too much time. But what you can do is take this wool and then you just stack, 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 stack. And you'll make a little mound. So like once you have this mound, that's too big for the back of his head, meaning it's not going to give us a big ball. So you take this, break it, stack it again, until you make this mound that you can tack on to the back of his head and give it more volume. Anywhere you need volume, like if you're building a chin or cheeks or something, you can do little stacks like this. And build volume. On this one, I'm pretty happy with. So this flat side is my face, and the back of the head is just a little more round. So find your face and find the back, and here's how we're going to build this guy. Okay, so once you have that in place, what we want to do is start to cover with our gray and our white for his tummy. So let's start with that little body. Now you can cover his tummy in white first or do the gray first. It really doesn't matter. You're just going to take your gray wool, or you could even use browns or something for this, for a raccoon, but I usually see him as being gray. For this, I'm going to do the gray first, and for the face, we'll do the white first, just so you can see the difference. The only real difference is here, I'm going to take a very thin strip of the storm colored wool, and I'm just going to wrap it around the body right where I want it. So that I leave the tummy exposed.
We have a question before you move on.
Sure.
The width of the head. Did we measure the width of the head?
I'm sorry, y'all. The width of the head.
And Fiona said that she can convert to centimeters.
Okay, so the head is about 2 inches wide there. He's about 2 inches wide in length and side to side. And so if we go around the head, it's really not very big. but top to bottom, it's about 1.25 inches, I think. And then around, he's measuring about 3.25 there, inches. About 3.25 inches around. So he's very little. He's very little. Look, just like the proportions of what you have. But I know we have our measuring friends out there, so.
We have some hungry friends, too. I've heard that looks like a taco and a pot sticker.
And mashed potatoes.
And mashed potatoes.
Janlin says that they've got 5 gray babies, raccoons. And I got to pet a brand new baby raccoon at the shop. A lady brought one in one time. It's just amazing. She brought it into the shop. Okay, so notice here the back is going to be empty. No worry, we can patch that in. All I want you to do is to get your tummy circle, and then I like to use my gentle needles here and just get that circle that you want for the little tummy. Have fun with that shape. Do whatever you want. And you're just going to want to get that all tacked down for your outer layer. I always use my fine needles for this surface layer, or finer needles. If you have 42s, if you don't have 42s, use your 40s or use your 40 spirals, whatever is finer, because that's going to help you prevent from getting holes. But the other thing that helps prevent holes is having a firm underneath, because it's like, again, those mashed potatoes. You know, if you packed them all really down, you could make them smooth. But if you just pack them in there, then you're going to have things that look like holes. Really think less about getting rid of holes and think more about compressing all of the fiber that you can. So use your fine needles, get this covered, and then you can just do a patch over the back. But I always wait, because see how this is going to all gather around as we needle felt it? I wait to see whether I need to patch any at all. Get all that tacked down, make it nice and smooth until you just can't muss it up with your fingers anymore.
We have a lot of people saying they're getting out their dabble boxes to make all kinds of crazy colored raccoons.
Fun. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We need to make a couple of jumps. So here we go. Here's my other little body, a little bit smaller probably than this one. But so here's one. I've needle felted down a little bit further. And this is still just the core wool tummy. So I will take my Blanc White CX2 and just pull off a patch. We don't need it to be too thick. We're not covering that much, but I want it to cover around. And you can decide whether you are a really clean lines person or you like things to be a little feathered out. I like both. It really depends on how I'm feeling. But sometimes I like the fiber I like it to bleed out a little bit and look a little more organic. So that's up to you, whether you have a super clean line. If you want a super clean line, the way to get the cleanest line would be to put the white down first and then trail the gray around. That would give you the cleanest line probably possible. So we're just going to tack down that little tummy fur. And he's not going to be a furry beast, right? This is going to be flat. It's going to be very flat. And this one I'm going to where that one's a clean line, this one I'm going to let it taper out a little bit. Notice I start in the middle when I'm doing a patch like this, because you want to smooth all the excess out to the edges.
People are very excited about your little raccoon.
Oh, I can't wait to see them all.
I think we have a lot of people that would just like to sit here and watch you live stream all day long.
I always tell my husband how much I love it, and I wish I could do it more, but there's still other stuff to do. I'm going to figure out how I can get more studio time with y'all, because it's really fun, and we do have some fun projects set up for the holidays as well. We're already planning our next year's projects too. So I'm going to be posting probably later today or tomorrow, the calendar for Woolly Wednesdays for the rest of the year, because we do need to take a few weeks off for other business, family business, holiday business. But we have the rest of them all planned out, and I'll post a calendar so you can see what days we're going to not have a show. And I'm sure many of you will be with your families also on some of those days. Okay, so you just want to get all the rest of this tapered down, and you can certainly use this. Again, I'm going for the fuzzies here. If your wool is fuzzier than mine and you're having a difficult time getting rid of all the fuzzies, so I see some people suggesting using irons and stuff like that. I want to encourage you first to get it needle felted all down. First, needle felt it all down. And once you're sure that it's all needle felted down and you can run your fingers on it and it's not going to get mussed up, well, then you can pull out your little trim scissors and trim off the fuzzies. Unless you like the fuzzies, then leave the fuzzies on. Some people go through a lot of pains to use reverse felting needles to make them fuzzy. It's a little different building process, but there you go. Okay, so now we have our body covered, he's ready to go, and our head is a little bit different. For the head, what we're going to do, again, find your flat side. I'm going to set this little body aside, find your flat side, and in this case, I'm going to cover the face with the white first. And let's see here. Who do I have?
The sweetest. Julia said, your model has the sweetest wee grin and kind eyes.
Aww. Oh, cute. I thought it would be nice to have a nice raccoon as opposed to a not so nice raccoon. Okay, so here's my white. And again, we're just going to cover the face. And I want just enough to kind of cover that face and not too much volume under there. And so just put it right on that front side and be happy with that coverage. And it's okay that it runs up to over to different areas. Put this down. And meaning it can run up over the top a little bit and down the sides a little bit. I'm just going to lay down a little white face.
I think quite a few people seem to like the idea of keeping him a little fuzzy.
Yeah. Well, MC1 is not very fuzzy, I mean, by itself, but you can apply, you can apply a little more fiber over after you want, or you could make his whole body. Like if you made his whole body gray instead of using the core wool, then, doing something with the reverse needle would, it's going to unfelt a little bit of those parts. But if you use a reverse needle with core wool on the inside, then it's going to pull that core wool out. And that wouldn't be desirable. So in this case, all right, so what you're going to do is cover the face and make it nice and smooth. And then we're going to put on a little nose. And I'll be jumping here in a second to a piece that is a little more felted as well. But I want to put on this little tiny snout, if you will. Not just the nose, but his little snout. So you see how it just protrudes just a little bit. We want to do that with like the tiniest little, it's like a half a pea maybe, just a little pea. And we're going to do that just with whatever color you're making the muzzle. So if you were making a black muzzle or a brown muzzle, just use the same color, whatever critter you're making. And we're going to make this oh so tiny. I found that it's easy for me to make this too big, but if you make it small, you can always add to it. And sometimes you want to add and like cover up that part. So I think we probably need to comment just a little bit here so I can show you what we're doing. We're going to take this piece. I'm going to make a little pea of sorts. Just a little ball. Like I said, it's easy for me to make this too big. And then the face grows. And I've seen this actually a lot when I do doll classes. Like people are like, they build a huge honking nose and then the doll keeps growing and growing. So look, we don't need it to be very big. Y'all are gonna ask me what size. I don't know, it's about the size at the end of my pinky maybe. It's like, or a little bit smaller, so very small. And remember, you can always add more wool to it. So this is a loosely formed ball. I'm just gonna needle felt it a little tiny bit so that it holds its shape. I'm not really trying to shape it even too much at this moment.
Did we, I know you measured him already.
Oh, sorry.
What did we
What?
say how tall he was again? We have a few people asking.
Oh, how does he stand?
No, how tall he was, how his length was.
He's like 4 inches,
Only
I
4
want to
inches?
say.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he's a shorty. Hold on. Yeah, he's going to be like a 4-inch dude.
Okay.
Yeah, he's about 4 inches. Which is pretty common for my little guys to be that little. Now
perfect
yours
size.
can be bigger. Yeah, I think okay, so look, I just have this little pea, and what we're going to do is put it on the face. I want it on the face, but I want it to come a little to like what would be underneath. So we're going to want some of that roundness to be underneath, and I'm going to make the top a little flat. So here I'm going to pull out my 40 triangle, again staying rather conservative. I just want to attach, and I'm going to start attaching right there on what's going to be the top, because I want that part to be a little bit flat. Now don't go too wide here. You want it to be a little flat. Notice the top of his face right here. This little teeny tiny spot is like between his 2 eyes. This is the little part we're making right here, like a little shelf on his face. So we're going to put this here. Gently attach your way around. It's okay if it spreads out a little bit. You don't have to tuck it in. Let it spread out, and then underneath be gentle as well too. Take your time here. Shaping this little nose can have an impact on what your little guy looks like. So take your time, and again, we can add more wool over the top. So as soon as it's just kind of holding in place, then what I like to do is go around and shape it. And this part would take time if we were doing it. So I shape the top, and then these parts I want to kind of taper out a little bit this way. So his nose gets a little bit tinier, you know, towards where the nose spot is. So take your time and shape your little nose, being gentle underneath. So you don't want to, you know, all of a sudden make that flat. It's okay for that to be a little rounded underneath. And just keep shaping your nose until you're happy with that little doodad part right there, because that's where we're going to put his little mouth on there. His little mouth and his little nose. Okay, so once you kind of get that ball into place, and I'm going to show you this one. This was just like, it's just a little button on there. If you have a little line or something you're not entirely happy with, see this side I've already smoothed out, and how you smooth out something like that is with just a tiny patch. So you just bring the same fiber in that you made it with, and you're going to put in a tiny little patch and cover that line. And hey, look, if you're working with our MC1 batting, and again, this is CX2, it's slightly different. You can see it's more hairy, it's a little longer, it's not quite as crimpy, but it's very similar in nature. So what I do is I'll just cover these lines right here with that patch. And the first thing I'm going to do is not needle felt right in the line that I'm covering, but around that. And that will allow you to kind of gently blend, slope, cover all manner of atrocities underneath there, and just kind of cover that up and make it look nice and cute. Okay, so once you have that basic face shape and snout in place, what we want to do is start building the color on his face, his eyes, his little cheeks, and all that stuff. So with our wool here, you're just going to pull off a little tiny strip, and very much like we did on the tummy area, covering the wool in the tummy area, we're just going to make this batting do what we want. So the first thing I want to do is to get this face trim in, and there's lots of ways you might go about that. I like to just take a piece right here, and I'm going to connect it right there at the top of the snout, so that I just get that little tiny line. So I have a long strip, and I'm going to just attach it right there. And then I'm going to bend this up around his face to get the shape that I want. So no, it's easy to make him look angry, I think, you know, if you don't get the swoops how you want them. So I just have the middle be real narrow, and then the tops are gonna arch up. And that's all you're going to do, is just get this fiber to go where you want. And remember that you can always go back and add a little more. And if you use a nice fine needle to start with, well, then you can tear it off if you're not entirely happy with it. So I like to get that shape, and I like to leave a little bit of these corners white. So I'm going to come around just to what would be like the flat side here and let it wrap under a little bit. You might decide you want the under part of his face to be white, you might want it to be gray, it's really up to you. But that's all you're going to do to start covering the head with this fiber. And again, I'll just show you, you want the two to match, and so that's why I kind of like to pull it out, you know, drag it around in this manner. And you can always tack it on like this in draft mode and see how you like it. And if you don't love it after you add the other parts, well, then come back and make adjustments. Meaning, you know, you're going to be covering all this in gray anyway. So there's some room for adjustment and error there. So I'm going to let you see his little face one more time, and we're going to jump to getting these eyes done.
So we had a question about, is it possible to overfelt something?
It is possible to overfelt something, especially if you're felting something like with your 36 or your 32 triangle. And what happens is, if you just keep blasting this shape right now with like a 36 triangle or a 32 triangle, you're going to make it very hard, and unreceptive to new fiber being placed on top. So you want there to be some, I call it feltability. You want there to be some receptivity for more layers at this point. And if you just felt something until the point where every poke results in a new hole, then you've gone so far that you can't apply anything on top. So I like to felt stuff to a certain firmness for what's the purpose. This is a decorative piece. It's not going to be a toy. It's going to be on display. If you were making a toy, then we wouldn't use the glass eyes. Okay, so on the head, we're going to jump to, this little head is not too much further than the one I'm showing you right now, in that we've covered him with the gray. He's got the little snout. He has some black in place for his eye and an ear. So let's catch up this side. We're going to put black in place for the eye and finish building out his little face for you. So I'll prop him up a little bit so you can see him. There you go. Okay, so once you've covered it with the gray, the next step I like to do is add the black little swoop for the eye. That's pretty easy. You're just going to pull off a little piece. Let it be your cleanest piece. If you get some white in your fiber, just pick it out. And this takes very, very, very little. Okay, so this is like a very little piece. It really doesn't take that much fiber. And we're going to anchor it right up here, and we're going to pull it down here. So it's easy to have too much, so just find your way.
Okay, one of the other questions was, and this might be a loaded one, was how do you decide on your proportions?
I don't know. Like for me, I just tend to like make things the same size. So, I mean, I'm not a realist, and I have to try really hard if I want to make anything real, and then it's like work. So for me, I don't know. Like when I make a gnome, I know I might want him to be 3 heads high because that's not real. A human is 7 or 8 heads high. I just don't have him propped up here today. So for me, I don't know. If like I make something and I like it, then I tend to model it. And he's a little on the size of Storybook Bunny. Okay, he's driving me crazy. He needs a pillow or something.
A special pillow.
Yeah, he needs a special pillow, so he'll stay. Okay, so let's get this black in place. So all we're going to do is tuck it right up in there. I just keep knocking him over. Maybe he doesn't need a pillow.
He's a raccoon. He's a rascal.
I'm going to tuck it right up here in the eye and then just pull it down and match. So all we do is, I don't shape it in advance or anything. I'm just going to kind of get it to go where I want, and then I'm going to pull it down to this corner here. And you don't want more than you need, so pull off the balance and then just shape it. So for this, I like it to be a little more rounded at the top, so I'm going to scoop and scooch a little more wool out to that roundness, and then this part I want it to be a little more tapered and a little arched. Oh, by the way, I want this to be a little arched, so just kind of arch it out. If I were doing this by myself, I would easily take 2 nights, meaning if I wasn't trying to hurry and display, I would easily take 2 nights to make this little guy. 2 nights meaning after work, because somehow I still don't sit around here and felt. One day, one day I'm just going to sit around here and felt. Y'all are going to come, what's Marie doing? Well, she's just felting. And if you're not happy with it, if you don't have quite enough, well, the fun thing is you can just add a little bit more. He needs a little fiddle in his hands, Lynette says.
We have fiddles.
That's a cute idea.
Making him a Christmas ornament.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think y'all will like how he comes back to help us next week. Okay, here we go. So just get that how you want it, and then get that really nice and flush. I think mine could use a little more shaping, but I would have to fiddle with it a little bit longer. Okay, we're going to jump to the ears. So I'm going to show you how I make the ears, and we'll come back to the eyes. Now, this is my way for the ears. I'm going to use a little piece of felt here, so because I don't want any color. I've been working with white. I don't want any color. I'm about to use black. And what we're going to do with these ears, usually I make them both at the same time, and I'm not doing that today. I'm just going to pull off a little bit, just like this. Get this up here, just like this, and I'm going to, or something like that, I'm going to make a little triangle for his ears. So I need a little square, kind of like that. And sometimes all I do is use my finger. Like if you look at this, you can say, oh, that's about as big as my finger. That's about how scientific as I am. I don't really go for anything too fancy. If you want to draw it out, you know, if you're making oodles of these, you might want to draw it out so you like the shapes. But what I do is usually just make 2 at a time. So notice I'm kind of tracing out that little shape, and then I'm going to fold this side stuff in. Gently, gently. This felt sheet is going to keep the fiber from sticking to my foam, folding in the other side. It's going to keep it from getting, you know, kind of embedded in this open cell structure of the foam. It's going to make it easier for me to lift it up and remove it. And it's also helps it keep it a little bit cleaner. Now, I'm not felting the bottom here. Leave this part alone for the moment. Just for the moment, leave it alone. And what you're going to do is gently, notice I'm using a 42 triangle because I want to gently flatten it. I'm going to have to cook to finish this guy. I think we're going over. I mean,
Nobody
for sure.
seems to be upset about that.
I know.
Everybody loves
Y'all
Mr. Fiddles.
Okay, so before you go too far, what I want you to do is peel them off, but peel them off from the tip, not from the bottom, which is unfelted. So peel them off from the tip, turn it over, and then let's felt the back the same way. If you have any fibers in there that you don't want, pick them out now. Somehow, I think I brought fibers with me on this little felt sheet. This is just the inner structure of our ear. So we do want fairly clean edges, really. But, I mean, they can be a little fuzzy. It's just that this is going to be like the inner structure. So here we go. We've got this little black area. I don't want it attached to my felt. So peel it off again and tack it down again.
I love this tip of doing it on a felt sheet.
Yeah.
I was trying to do some little pieces every time I pulled it off my foam. Like,
Oh.
hot mess.
Hot mess. Okay, so in this little ear, what I've done is I've added gray on both sides and pink inside. And so if we do this part first, so the inside, if we do the inside first, we can apply the gray and the pink, let it show through the back, and then we'll cover the back with the gray. It won't be any problem. You'll see it'll just all magically work out. So all we're going to do is kind of fill this in a little bit and let the fibers trail down so we have something to attach to the head. I'm going to peel off just a little bit here and make that even. I probably should have finished another ear, but c'est la vie. We'll take our time with this. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to plunk this kind of down right on top, and then all these loose fibers that are trailing up, see how they're kind of sticking up over the top? We'll just fold them back down because I want him to have like a little black trimmed ear, but I didn't want to have to cut him out of felt or try and add that on. It's easier just to kind of sandwich it in there.
I love Kathy's comment. The minute I think I'm hooked on wet felting, I see this class on needle felting. There's so many decisions.
I so feel you. Okay, so look, here we have that. Here we have we can put our little drop of pink, and this pink, if you just pull off, I have like the tiniest little bit of pink here. You probably can't even see it. It's just a little bit of pink. Well, you can just plunk it right down there in the middle and make it shaped however you want. So if we plunk this in, now we have all that done, and we can put some fiber on the back. And the ears you can leave a little fuzzy too. It's kind of fun. I don't even worry about that pink too much. It's more like just a suggestion of pink. So now we're going to peel this off and see how that poked through the back. Perfect. Now we'll cover it up with a little more gray. And again, leave this sticking down a little bit because that's how we're going to attach it to the head. So again, very non-scientific. Grab a glob, put it on there, and start poking within the area that you want. Like a sandwich, someone says. Who's that? Like Marianne. Yes, like a little sandwich. I make a little ear sandwich.
So Kim has a question about the eyes.
Okay, we're going to be on the eyes in just a minute. Yeah, we're going to be right back there. Let us get this ear on.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. we'll get the ear on, and then we're going to be ready for the eyes and the face and all that little stuff. Okay, so here we go. Now we have this little, and he's kind of rough, but you can have fun shaping him up. So what I'm going to do is just gather all this down, and then we start to get the shape that we want. So it's a little rough right now, but if you shape it with your fingers here, and now we're going to start to poke and shape. Get all your little trailers in. If you want to trim the ears, you can certainly trim them right now. But we're going to put them on the head so it's kind of shaped a little rounded like this. And I would normally spend a lot more time, I don't know about a lot, but definitely more time working on this little ear so that I was very happy with the shape. But the one thing I like here is because we've had that gray wool trailing in front and back, then we can have this little opening here to kind of attach to the head like this. So I like to put them, if you look how they are here, they're just like from the eye, like I have them just to the, maybe just to the outside of, you could draw a line from the eye to the ear. So the eyes are going to be kind of right there, and then the line of the ear is going to be right there. So we can take this and kind of shape it as we put it on the head and just find that position. Now, when you think you have the position or about the position, use a pin and stick it in there. You can stick the pin in the front or the back, whatever's easier, but that's going to help you shape it as you put it on. You can tack down the, watch the pin's going to poke through because it's so little. You can tack down this part first, and again, I'm using a fine needle because you're just kind of drafting it, and then you can scoop in the ear sides like this, and then needle felt them. So he has a little cup. They shouldn't be sitting on straight. You should cup them in a little bit. And you've got all this extra wool here that we left. I used to call it a flange. No one ever knew what that was. I'm like, is that a word? Or did I just make it up? A little flange. I go, my brain says a little flange. It's like a little, just what you use to attach. And then on the back, we're going to do the same thing. If you have too much wool, if yours is really bulky, well, then just tear it off or whatever. But just sculpt all this down there first, and then get that all on the back of the head.
This felt sheet method is, people are loving that idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because people were saying it would really cut down on the time that, how they would have done the ears without a felt sheet. It's so much easier.
It does. It just sticks to your foam. And if you don't have a felt sheet or you have something else, we'll just, you can use other fabric as well. So get your ears so they match. I have a frog in my throat. Get your ears so they match. And you're happy with them. Okay, I'm going to pause. Mine could use just a little more shaping, but I mean, we're not all perfect and symmetrical. We're going to jump to the eyes next, and I'm going to be using 4mm glass black eyes. In our storybook bunny, we used bead eyes, and you can also use wool. Now, you said you had a question on eyes?
That was basically what would you substitute for the glass eyes, especially if you were going to give it to a child.
Okay, if you're giving it to a child, then if it's this tiny, then I would just do wool. Just do wool, and you might put a little dot in there. If it's bigger, you could cut them out of felt and sew them on. But if it's a child, just to avoid, a baby especially, avoid these small parts. Now, if it's an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old, you can give them these parts. They'll probably pull them apart. Did I forget my wire cutters? Oh, okay.
So Kevin had a question then while you're getting those. Do you poke in one direction or all different directions to tighten the fibers, or does it matter?
Oh, wait, you mean when I'm just getting all of this laid down?
Yeah.
Oh, when I'm getting this laid down, I'm going to go all over the place. So I will turn this piece every which way, Kevin, every which way if I want it to get all nice and flat. And I'm never afraid to use my little cluster, but when you use your cluster, the poking action is more like this. Especially if you're new, notice the difference in different types of poking action. Like here, I'm only using the first 2 barbs on the end of this needle. We call them barbs, but they're really grooves because I really don't want to change the shape, but this is such a great smoothing action. If I'm feeling a little more, I don't know, I just want to have a little more mellow experience, I actually just do this because I don't have to pay as much of attention. I can just drive this 42 in all over, without really thinking about it. So I'm almost always the last pass I do on a piece is with my single 42 triangle. Almost always. Okay, so let's do these eyes now. We don't need the eyes to be too long, but we want them to be long enough that we can anchor them in there. So that's about, I don't know, about a half inch. And these glass eyes just come on this metal wire. So you're going to cut that off. We also have some loop back glass eyes, which you could sew into a piece. We have glass beads, which you get like 100 in a pack. They're glass German beads. You can sew those in like we did on Bunny. But here I'm going to use these. And all we do is you take like a coarse needle right where you want that eye to go in, and I want it right about there, and we're going to drive a hole. Now don't worry if you feel like you start to lose your black, because you can always go back and add more black around where you put the bead, but you need a hole there. And if you're not sure what size eyes, if you're working on a project, we sell these in what we call size runs, and we suggest like keeping a size run on hand. I probably didn't cut that sharp enough. You want to cut like a nice angle so it'll be nice and sharp. It would be nice to keep like a little size run on hand so that you can have them available so you can see what size. So all I did was cut that a little bit sharp, and I'm just going to poke it right into the hole. I did bring my super glue. We won't pause for that on the eyes, but you can, once you get the place and you know that's where they're going, you can use super glue and glue those in place. Okay, now you'll also notice that if your piece isn't firm, then it's going to start to misshape as soon as you do something like start to drive a hole in there or apply the eyes. So having a piece firm, this is another reason to have the piece firm, because you don't want it to misshape the moment you go to do something else to it. So once your eyes are in place, now you can go back and add a little more black, and I won't spend a bunch of time fussing with that because I won't glue my eyes in, but you can go back and add a little more black around that area to fill it in so that you're happy with how it looks. And what's fun if you do end up using the glass beads is glass beads or these little glass eyes is they just catch the light a little bit and just brings them to life. But if it's a toy for a baby or something like that, or that a little child is going to have in the hands, you'll be glad not to worry about it. Okay, there we go. There's that. Now the nose is every bit as easy. I can't believe I'm so over. I feel bad. I feel like I didn't plan well enough.
I think people, they're enjoying it. I had a lot of comments like, keep going, we'll take you all day.
Okay, here we go. So for the nose, I'm starting right with this nose part. This is about as scientific as I get, as I put down a little dot of fiber, and I'm just going to shape it right there on the piece. I never shape it before. I do the line across first, and then I come down to whatever I think that point is going to be, the bottom point. Now some people will, go through the trouble of making a little clay nose, and that's fun, or buying little plastic noses or something like that. I almost always just use like a little wool nose, just like that. And you can always add a little more. And all these little trailing fibers you can either coax in or trim. So just fill that in until you're happy with it. And to build his mouth, you could do it with string if you want, like thread, or you can just use the fiber again. And that is all I did on him. Our kit does have a little sewing thread, so you could use sewing thread, but this is all I did for him, is just twist a little black fiber.
Donna said she told her kids to all buy her Living Felt gift certificates for Christmas this year.
That's so sweet. Okay, I'm just putting a little line here. And you know what? It's just fun. We did this on another critter recently where we said, like, you could give them a little smile like this guy, or you could just give them a little, there's something real innocent when they just have like a little straight line. I think we did it on our teddy bears. They just had a straight line down. And someone earlier said they were still working on their teddy bear. We did an anniversary bear this year. That was our first ever. So he's kind of cute, if he doesn't even have a little. I'm going to give him, I think, a tinier mouth than the other one. This is
We
his
have a lot of
brother.
good, lot of good comments about like all the little tiny details that just make his little face come to life.
He's fun.
He's got personality. I can't remember who it was, but they suggested a Mrs. Fiddles.
Oh. Oh, he's so cute. Okay, so this is now trim up these, these little bits where this fiber can like get a little loose and wispy. So this is the time when you're going to want to spend your time, I always say, real up close and personal with your piece and get rid of all the little, blurry bits. And that just takes a little time. That's the finishing. That's the refining. So there's that cute little mouth. And I don't know why, but I felt like blushing cheeks on this one, but not too strong. So you're going to get a little, if you get the kit, you're going to get soft pink. And you could even use powder. If that's just too bright, if you ever have a color that's too bright, just blend it with the white or whatever's the natural. But I literally just spread this stuff out and put down the tiniest little, I thought it seemed like maybe he was just a little chilly. And so I just put a tiny amount on the cheeks in like a goofy little place there. These were even smaller. And then just needle felted it right on there. Just make sure, it's sticking to me. Make sure the black's not there. So I just give him little it's a little chilly outside.
Oh, Pamela
Always with the
said, we'll
fine
be
needle.
here as long as you're willing. Your valuable time and talent. A very appreciated gift.
You guys are so sweet. I told my husband today, Rodney Jean, if you're out there, he's always here. Poor man, he'll be still watching, like wanting to get back to work. But just to thank you for letting me be, my version of Captain Kangaroo, because that was, when I was little, that's who I pretty much wanted to be when I grew up, was Captain Kangaroo. Except I still don't have the red coat. I'm working on that. Okay, here we go. So a couple of little rosy cheeks. We've got our little face in. We've got eyes. We've got ears. We've got the makings of a cute little face. I could probably even that up a little bit. But what we need to do, we do want to build him, but what he needs are arms, legs, and tail. And I have some of those in the works that we'll be able to jump to. But what you want to do is pull out your chenille stems for that, whatever color, it doesn't matter. And I will go ahead and give you some measurements. The arms and the legs are just a little bit different, and the tail is oh so easy. We stay here, buddy? Hang out with us so we can finish you. Okay, so for the arms and the legs, his arms are, let me give you measurements. For the wire, the arm wire, I think I cut it to 2.5 inches, and then for the legs, you can cut 2.5 to 2 3/4, and I'll show you why. So let's get our ruler, and I'll cut his arm out of brown, so I won't get confused and use the wrong one. So for the arm, go ahead and cut a 2.5 inch. I thought I'd already done that. This must be the leg wire. But I'll cut a 2.5 inch wire for the arm. Now, you can always make these shorter. If you make them too long, you can always make them shorter. And then for the leg, I'm going to cut it to 2 3/4 inches. That's probably the one about 2 3/4 inches there. You can resize the leg. And then for the tail, what did I do for the tail? I think I did about 3 1/4, 3/75. Give yourself 4 to 5 inches for the tail. I'm sorry, you guys can't see my ruler. I'm sorry about that. So the arm is about 2.5. The leg is 2 3/4, and the tail, go ahead and give yourself about a 5-inch piece for that. We're going to need to come out a little bit just so y'all can see my hand movements, and I can get rid of our little felt sheet here. This is all wrapping. All of this is going to be wrapping for doing our arms and legs and our tail. So let's do an arm first. Is that too hard to see on the black? Can y'all see that?
Let's see.
Look and tell me. So here's what we're going to do is,
I'm not getting any, they're not telling us. Can y'all see it?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'll just put this up here for the moment since that's a brown piece so you can see it. We're going to just wrap the end of the hand first, and what you want is a very gentle fold back. I feel like I need to come up. Is a very gentle fold for the end of the hand. And, oh, actually, I've just changed the way I'm doing this. I don't know, I just changed since I started doing my other dolls. So here's what we do. Take the hand, stream this out. I've been doing that for so many years, and I just literally changed the way I'm doing it. Start about right here, little less than an inch in, fold it over, twist to the end, and then fold your chenille stem down. I used to do what was like the cotton swab tip, and I literally just started doing this differently. Fold it down, and now we're going to go over the hand a couple. Go over a couple and keep it tight. Like, you shouldn't have to needle felt this down very much. You're mostly putting on the volume, and go just a little beyond where you want it to be, and then tear it off. And if you're using our MC1, you know you can just do this, and it's going to really grab onto itself, so you can minimally needle felt it down. Now, if you're going to give it to a child to play with, you might consider a little, on the hands and the feet especially, a little 50-50 solution of water and fabric stiffener. And like on the fingers video in our doll tutorial, you would just basically put your hands in the solution and tap it on the end so that they don't muss it up. So all I'm doing is barely tapping this down. As you can see that I'm rolling it and going at a very shallow angle as I go. And then we want to put the gray on the arm. So wish I'd made a second leg. Okay. So again, we're working with very thin strips here. If you're having difficulty controlling your shapes when you're working on these small parts, just use less fiber. Hold less fiber, wrap less fiber, go thinner, go more narrow. That's really the key. So here I'm just literally gonna fold this on really tight, wrap, 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 and wrap multiple times in that same spot before you start moving. Yes, you can come back and up, but you may as well get some volume on while you're there. Okay. So here we go. We're going to go all the way to the end. And under here, what I usually do is just tuck this under a little bit too, because what I find is those little pokey ends always come out. So we want to, the arm's going to be, the wool's going to extend beyond where the wire is. So now we're going to wrap our way back down, and then we're going to add more, we can add more on top. So you don't want the arms too thick, at least on this little guy I don't. So wrap that around and then needle felt it down, and just do your best to make your two arms match. I can already tell that mine are not because I'm rushing. And you don't want to hit the wire. Don't worry about breaking your needles, really. Just focus on getting a good angle as you're needle felting it down. And I always kind of move it between my fingers like this, so I know it can be hard to see, but that's how I see where I am. I know I'm needle felting in between my two fingers, and I'm always needle felting on that horizon. If you put your wool on too bulky and there's a bunch of air, that's why it might look sloppy. So tight wraps are the most important, and the best way to get there is really, again, those thin, narrow strips as you go.
Natalia was just asking is there a kit? And there is.
Yes, there is a kit. If you go to the link in the description for today's show, it'll take you to the supplies page. Okay, now notice we kind of have this little end here, and it's kind of terminated there, but we want a little extra fluff on there. So what I do is, once I get it to here, then I'm going to add another little tiny strip. It doesn't take much, probably less than this, but we're going to add a little fluff. So now that I have this base down, I will just tack that down gently. And then I'm going to add some volume here. A little bit, just like that, just like that. So now I have a little volume, a little extra. You can tear that off and leave the very end here a little bit loose, but tack the rest of this down. Don't forget. Remember, I should say. Remember to tack that down. Okay, let's look at what's different about the leg. Really going over. Here we go. Let's see what's different about the leg. So these are our arm, and I have another arm ready to go. So we have two little arm parts. And the leg is a little bit different in that he has a bend and he sort of like has like a little boot, right? So we start the very same way. This is going to be the finished size. So what I do like to do is put a bigger bend in the foot. Again with our strip. So Lori says every time she makes a Waldorf doll, one arm gets longer than the other. How do you avoid that? So what I would say is like, just like we're about to see with the leg, is I would terminate the wool at some point and then match up your two arms, cut them so they're the same length, and then continue wrapping the wool. So just pause in wrapping the wool on your doll arms before you get to the very end, and then make sure the two are the same length. And make them both at the same time always. Okay, so making eyes in black wool is going to be just like we did with the nose, really. Okay, so here we go. We're starting just off the end, about 3/4 of an inch. We're going to roll to the end. We're going to bend that foot back, but this foot is going to be about 1/2 inch. Sometimes I just look at the other one. It's about 1/2 inch, and we're going to bend the foot back in that amount there, and then continue wrapping. And hopefully I got these measurements right. I'm sorry, I feel like my screen looks so messy. And we're going to roll up a little bit past that point. So, because we're making our little boot, right? Remember, you're controlling everything right here. If it gets messy, just pause and, pull this back out. Like mine got caught under my fingers. Okay. So wrap, wrap, wrap. Mine's kind of messy.
I think it's Dillis. She said, I watch Woolly Wednesday every week, but for some reason I'm completely mesmerized this week. It's fascinating watching him evolve.
Okay, so here we go. We just want to bend that kind of up. So now we have like a little boot, and I have a little tip there, which is not my favorite, but I'm going to live with it for the essence of time and wrap this around back onto the boot. So make your boot as thick as you want. I usually come back and do a couple of passes on the little shoe. And you can also do it after. I just find that it's easier to control when it's not on the critter, which is my only reason for not doing more of like an H shape, complete armature, is there's a little more control, and I'm not really trying to make something that necessarily stands. He could more like dangle or be propped up somewhere. Or if he's on a little wooded setting, like a grass setting, well, then you could attach him, to a base of some kind if he's not going to just float around. All of our critters seem to float around, don't they, Holly?
They do.
They float around. They come in and out for seasons. Okay, so take your time on your boots. Again, you want to use shallow strokes, fine needles. Get it all tacked down, and then be willing to put another layer on there. It's totally fine to put another layer after you needle felt that down to get that sort of smoothing layer. Let's get his legs together. And notice here that I've left a little area unfelted. So that's just a little tip, meaning a tip section. Leave a little section unfelted or without wool on your little guy. And again, we're going to wrap around and fill in that leg.
So Jamie had an interesting question. Could you use an old broken needle, the angle for the foot, and then wrap it as you would the chenille? She's talking about using if you had a broken needle to use as the legs. I guess they wouldn't be flexible.
They would not be flexible. They would be strong, and you're going to risk hitting it with your needle. It's going to be harder. It will be harder to needle felt it, but you could give it a go. I mean, we use wires all the time, so that's an interesting proposition. Now I want to try it. Okay, are my legs the same size? Close. I just need to bring my wool up a little higher on this one. Since I used the gray wool, it's a little harder to see. Okay. Kay says, Mr. Fiddles is our elf on our shelf. Okay, so I'm just doing my legs about that thick. I've got all this wool left. All you do is just pull it off And like I said, if you're not working with our MC1 batting, if you have longer fibers, I know it's not quite the same process, but this is what working with our batting is like. And so I'm using this little end to control it, and then we're going to needle felt it down. Take your time to get your parts clean. We're going to have to rush through on ours here. So that means I go home and I fuss with it. I go home and I clean them up and finish them off. Like the witchies last week, I had to go home and finish them up. And as much as possible, if you can avoid going all the way through the other side, then do. Sometimes it's just how shallow can you get, and sometimes it seems like you just never get shallow enough not to all the way go through the other side. So you have to just keep going back and forth and back and forth. So do what you got to do. Okay, we're pretty close here. Now, what I want to do is, the next thing is I want to get my head, Mr. Fiddles, I want to get his head on. Oh, we're going to do the tail. Well, let me jump to the tail because you already see how to wrap. So with the tail, what you want to do is start with the end tip. You're going to start with the end tip in the black, just like we did with the hands and the legs. Then you're going to wrap the tail a few times. Notice I left an area exposed because I'm not using the whole tail. So you're going to wrap to the end, fold the wire back. You don't want it pokey. Get your black on, and then get your gray on to the volume you want. And then I add, once I get it kind of how I want, then I add the first stripe and then the second stripe. So let's just put a quick little stripe on this guy. Right here, it's not hard, and make it thick or thin, whatever you want. He's a cute little ringtail. So what I do is just get it to where I want it, and then I'm going to go back and clean up the lines as we go.
We have a lot of suggestions for Mr. Fiddles. Somebody said to pose him on a pumpkin, and somebody else said he needs a little colorful trash can. He's going to have his own line of accessories.
Mr. Fiddles. That's funny. Okay, so just kind of wrap it around, and then you can clean up the lines once you have it in place. Or not, you can make them a little less clean, but all I do is drag my needle just like that. If you drag it and then poke it there, then it's going to get cleaned up. It'll feel a little bit cleaner. And you don't have to have it clean. You can have it a little messy.
So just a lot of he's so cute. Mm-hmm. And so many good hints today. So many good pointers. People learned a lot today.
Me too. Have a leg ready. Okay. Okay, here we go. So here's our little tail. He's ready. I like to see how big I want it before I take this part off. Like, how big do I want his tail to be? And this little guy, so his tail comes all the way around the back here and all the way to this part. So that means I'm going to be able to cut most of this off, which is pretty much what I anticipated. And you can also cut most of it off and then hide the rest underneath. So I'm going to probably do both. So I'm going to pull this away a little bit and cut this off as flush as I can to the fur. And then I'll take this very end tip and just kind of curl it under a little bit. And then we'll kind of mount that to his body a little bit inside. So there's his tail. We have his arms and his legs. Let's get his head in place. So the first thing for the head is you're going to want a long doll needle. These are our 5-inch doll needles. Nice and long, and I have mine threaded with just a really strong polyester thread. Let's see if I can get this up here. You could use a button thread, which is sometimes what we include in the kits. It's a nice button thread. And when you do this, you can either, I like to come up through the base of the body, out the head, and back down. So the first thing is pick a point fairly in the center of the bottom of the body, come out right, which is where will be the neck. Leave yourself a long tail coming out. I do have my thread double threaded, so it's just it feels a little more strong and easier for me to grab onto. Then we're going to come up into the base of the head here and out the top somewhere. So you're about to see again why you want to have a nice, fairly firm shape. And then we're just going to go, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch over very small, back into the bottom, back out the parts. Just leave a little space. You don't want to go back out the same hole. And into the neck. And out the bottom, again, leaving yourself a little tiny space, a little tiny one, to tie a knot right there. Okay, so here we go. Mr. Fiddles is coming together. And what we want to do is we're going to tie a knot and we're going to pull him very tightly together. Over tighten because you want there to be a little bit of, you really don't want there to be any play, and the thread seems to stretch out over time. So now I'm going to cut myself free of my needle, and then we're going to tie a really nice knot.
Jamie's asking, are those our longest doll needles?
Yeah, 5 inches is our longest doll needle. It is. We don't have any longer. Okay, so here we go. We're going to tie them in a knot, and I like to just pull that really tight. It always stretches out some, so you're going to get some little indents, and you can fill those in. Double knot it. I mean, so, you know, you tied it once, tie it again. And now he's kind of squashed on there, but you'll be able to move it around a little bit. And we can even add a little neck in there. His face needs a little cleanup for my preference, but you can double knot it if you want. I'm just going to cut it off as close as I possibly can. And then you're going to fill in your gaps with whatever color your critter is. So the same on the top of the head and the bottom of the head. Does the needle come in the kit, Jill? It does not. You need to get that on your own. But it's right under in our needle section. This is all you got to do to cover that up. Bing, bing, bing. Notice that he didn't get really misshapen because he was really firm. If your piece is really squishy, then as soon as you go to put that head on, he becomes a completely new shape.
Did you add any white to the tail, or is that just a variation of the storm?
This is the storm.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Now, if you want him to have a neck, and I did it here a little bit because I wanted to pose his head a little bit, then you can take a little strip or a strand and kind of guide it underneath there. If you want him to have a little more of a neck, and you can start to kind of turn his head to the side a little bit. This guy's head is a little bit bigger, and like I said, I feel like his face was rushed, you know, today, but you can wrap a little neck in there and then needle felt it down. You can even add a little wool to one side if you want to kind of shape it a little bit. I didn't want his head to move around, so that's why I gave him a neck and then needle felted it into place. So that's really up to you whether you want to do that. You can have him turning this way or that way, or his head, you know, crocked up or whatever, and you can do that by adding a little neck wool and getting it in there. And I'm not going to fuss with that right at this moment. I want to get his arms and legs
So
in
you
place.
have a lot of people waiting for arms and legs.
Yeah. It's
and
fine.
tails. No.
All
They're
we're going
very
to do,
anxious.
we're going to take these and we're going to attach them right where you think they would go, and that's like right at the top of the shoulder. So we've left this little fluffy wool, and we'd already tucked down the other stuff. That's what it's for. Use your 40 triangle maybe. You really want to attach that, and I'm not just going to attach that fluff. I'm going to attach the fiber that's up at the very top of the arm here. So just like that. The arms might be, you just find the place where you want them. I actually want it just a little bit here, right there. And so he can kind of bend his arms forward. So find that spot, tack them down. If you're not happy with how the join looks, remember that you can go back and patch over, and you can patch over just this part of the top of the arm right there. So don't needle felt your wire, but needle felt all the fiber down near it, and then if you want it a little more blended here, then just put a little patch right over the arm. His neck looks funny because I shoved that wool in there, but I'll have to work on that. Okay, so the same with the other arm, and then I'll show you how to do the legs. So just get those arms so they're kind of in the same place. So look, he's all ready to be holding something. You're going to come back next week, aren't you, Fiddles too? So we've got to have Mr. Fiddles and his brother Trash. Yeah.
Or I think, yeah.
What?
Somebody gave him a good name up here. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
I want to
find
find it. Okay. I look forward to seeing all your comments. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, get those arms attached. Get them so you're happy with them.
Someone was asking with the thread again. It was a.
I just used a really strong, like a polyester thread, but you could also use a button thread or an upholstery thread. You can also use like a waxed floss. Okay, here we go. In the kit, you're going to get a button thread if you get a kit with us. Okay, almost there, y'all. Okay, here we go. We're going to get the legs on and the tail on. The tail is very much like the arm, so decide where you want it. I want it to be kind of bent around here and just like that. So use this fluffy wool that you had and attach that there, but this one I definitely want to do a little join. So get all of that really attached down. Just busted my needle.
I heard that.
I never do that.
I know, that's why I was
Okay.
surprised.
It flew out though. I heard it hit the table. I just switched my needle. Okay, so go around there and then use your use a little fluff and then just patch over that. So I'm not going to spend time doing that right there, but here we go. Just patch over that and get it so that it's a real nice seamless join and get it all smooth. For the legs, notice we left this little bead. The different that's going to be with the legs is we're going to pull out our awl. Bing, bing, and we're going to make holes in the bottom. So think about where you want those legs to be and how you want them to stand. I want a little bit of space between my legs, and again, here comes the idea of having something firm. So we're going to poke 2 holes approximately. I'm going to give him a little space between his legs here and here, and we're going to, but a little more towards like, kind of towards the front, towards the middle, and I'm just going to poke a hole with the awl. I made an interesting discovery this week, and that was that I meant to use glue and I used fray check instead, and it made the hole like accessible, like so I could put the leg in and out, and really, it made everything. It was interesting.
I wouldn't have thought about
so
that.
There's that and that. And once you're happy that you have your legs and they're even and they're in the place you want them, so they should both be pretty much the same height, then use your glue. I'm just using a little gel super glue. Some people I have friends, one of them only will work with the gel super glue, and the other one's no gel because of how long it takes to dry, but I don't care. This, to me, it doesn't matter. You can tell how used this is because it's fuzzy. So once you're happy, then just go in there and add a drop of super glue in the hole so he'll stay, and put the leg back. And after it's dry, then go back and smooth your joins. After it's dry. You don't fuss with it while it's wet or get a bunch of super glue on your needle. I got glue on my finger.
I guess you're taking Mr. Fiddles home.
Always. Okay, there we go. So his 2 little legs are in place. And I'm not going to fuss with them too much because I'm going to get glue all over my fingers. All I really want is for his legs to be even. So this one has to go in a little more. There we go. And then his legs are fairly even. So let me get my glue stuff out of the way. And I know his face isn't quite as refined as his brethren over here, his brother, but here he is, sort of a Mr. Fiddles. Our 2 little guys. Yeah, he needs some work. His face needs to, his black, I'm going to make the black of his face come down here a little bit more. This is like Bandit and Fiddles. Fiddles and Bandit. This guy's definitely the mischievouser one of the 2. And all the really difference is Mr. Fiddles, his points come down a little bit more. So this face maybe got a little bit wider, but I think that's pretty fun.
It's still adorable.
We were on way over, but we're done. We made Mr. Fiddles. I hope you'll make one for next week because, like I said, he's going to come back and share some more stuff with us next week. And I've made a righteous mess of this place. But we have stuff to do, don't we, Ollie?
We have some prizes.
Very fun. So thank you all so much for needle felting with me today. I can't wait to see your raccoons and what you make. And Holly's been...
I haven't been here forever.
I know. She's been feverishly writing names over there for everyone who's been commenting. So thanks for participating. We're going to draw 2 names right now for people who participated in the live chat. And if anybody watching the replay is still watching, well then, comment down below because you'll get a chance to win too. And if we didn't answer your question, please repost it. We'd love to see it. So, what are you giving away?
Either a Mr. Fiddles kit or a Storybook Bunny kit. You can pick.
You can pick.
And they can be friends.
Yeah, they are friends. Okay, we're going to draw names. You got
Faye S.
Faye S. And I got Mary Ellen Siegel. So congratulations, gals, and thank you everyone for playing with us today. Thank you for sticking with us for the big, long 90-minute Raccoon
It's so
show.
worth it, though. I want to be Raccoon.
I can't wait to see yours, y'all. Please share them in our group, Facebook friends. Tag us on Instagram if you make one. Holly's always pulling up what everybody's made and sharing them with me. If you're looking for more involved classes, check out our school, feltingtutorials.com. We just launched some really fun classes. We have a couple more coming this year. And if you're looking for supplies, that's where you can find them right there. We're coming back next week. Please check our group. I'll post the calendar for the rest of the year. Until next time, y'all, be extra good to yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you.